Hello, welcome to 15 Minutes of Consulting Best Practices. My name is Maria Isabel Rios, and I'm here with David Fields. Hello, David.
Good morning, Isabel. It's good to see you.
Great to see you too. All right, it's Monday, which means we get to answer your questions about how to create growth and momentum and delight at your consulting firm. So send your questions over. It takes us a minute to see them, and write in the comments, participate in the discussion. This is how you add richness to the conversations. Hello, Daniel. And this is also how we know you are here. It's the only way we know you are here. And to get us started today, I know there are some questions left over from last week where we had an amazing guest. So we focus on organizational topics and all of that. Hello, Michael. So Jaren, can you please post the question that was left over from last week, and we'll start there. Todd had asked, I haven't even launched my consultancy yet, all right, but I may have an opportunity. They're looking for an employee, but are possibly open to a consulting relationship. Question, what are some advantages for a company for using a consultant instead of hiring full-time? For example, it seems to me that someone from outside can often be heard in a more impactful way than someone from within a company. All right, David, what are some advantages from hiring a consultant versus an employee, right? And is that a good vehicle for Todd to grow his consultancy?
Yeah, well, so first of all, congratulations on your impending launch, I guess.
Right.
So that's amazing. And your instincts on that are right. There's actually an entire chapter on this topic in my first book. So not the book many of you read, which is The Executive's Guide to Consultants. The Irresistible Consultant's Guide to Winning Clients. My first book, which I have around here. Here it is.
Right.
This book.
Right.
There's a whole chapter called Can We, Should We, which is informing clients when they should use employees and when they should use an outside voice, like a consultant.
Right.
And it really... And whether they can and whether they should are two very different questions for them to consider. And they should think about both of them. In the can we, well, in both of them, they should be looking at competency. Do they have the ability or not? So what could an outsider like you offer? Well, perhaps some skills, perhaps some experience, or as you said, perspective that their employees don't have. Okay, so that's great. They should also be looking at short-term versus long-term capacity. Even if they have the ability, what you can offer them is surge capacity or an ability to surge a particular capability that they don't want to invest in long-term. Also, they need to think about is what they might be asking you to do the actual focus of their organization. Because if it's not, yeah, maybe they could do it, but should they? Probably not. Or whether there's IP involved that they don't want to share, or IP that you have that they don't have. So all of that together, those are all bunches of reasons. There are a lot of reasons that an outsider like you, like us, can add value. And there are some reasons that would point a company, a potential client, towards not hiring a consultant. Right. And helping them make that decision well will serve you in good stead, whether or not it leads to a project. Maria Isabel, thoughts on that?
I agree. Pushing for the question, it's good for furthering their relationship and for the problem solving that goes around it. Whether it is for this actual position where they will consider you and for your benefit, hopefully it is, or whether it is for the next position, where before posting it as an employment opportunity, they will think, wait a minute, do we actually want an employee, or do we want a consultant for this? And what type of consultant, what kind of role do we envision? And maybe that helps open the boundaries of what's possible and what's available to them in terms of a solution, or a combination of both. It wouldn't be unusual if an outcome of this discussion is, okay, we'll bring an employee with this profile and we'll add you, Todd, with your expertise to supplement or enhance the employee position, for this role or with that different profile. That wouldn't be unusual either. Right. Yeah. Let us know if that helped, if that answered your question. And I think, Jaren, there was another question that we promised we would answer today. So we'll get to that, and then we'll get to Tom's question.
Okay. So let's see. Dan asked last week, what's the best approach for expanding business with existing clients? Well, that's a pretty big question. What do you think, Maria?
It is, right? Only that. All right. So because you asked the question in such a big frame, right? And we have absolutely no point of reference other than your general question. I'm going to give you an equally big frame answer with no point of reference or no anchor, which may or may not apply to your specific situation. So I am going to assume that you're following the best practice of having regular touch points with your sponsors as part of your delivery methodology, as part of your process. And I am going to assume that as part of your regular touch points, you're asking, what are the general priorities, right? What's the scope? So beyond that, what is a good way to expand business with existing clients? One methodology that we typically recommend or advise is the use of vision meetings, right? Or drawbridge meetings. And you would basically be willing to spend some time and make some investment thinking, okay, what are the priorities? What is your point of view then of the needs and the strategies and the opportunities and issues that your client is facing? And with that, you would invite your client, if they're open to it, of course, because you have to frame it as a right side up opportunity, into a strategy session with you. And by your client, we don't mean one person, we would mean multiple folks at your client to have a problem solving, strategizing session with you, in which you would present your insights, in which you would address, not only your assessment of the landscape in your topic of expertise, but also what are opportunities and issues, and you will problem solve around that. Out of that session come a list of recommendations, some of which ideally your firm has expertise in and is able to help resolve, right? And that's where you make the turn and you say, then are you open to have us help you solve these problems? If we all agree that these are problems worth solving for. So that's one way you would use a series of vision meetings to help expand your work with clients. David, what do you think?
Yeah, so I 100% agree. We obviously do this and recommend it for clients all the time, vision meetings and opportunity assessments. And so from a tactical standpoint, I 100% agree with you. And I want to layer on two things, one of which I think most consultants know intuitively, and the other they miss. The one they know intuitively is do good work. Right. So the best way to expand your business with an existing client is just to deliver great value at your existing client, do great work. So that one, I think everybody realizes, just they may not focus on it or the client experience. The one I think that's often missed is you have to also maintain your relationship with the client outside of the project, even when you're conducting a project or engaged in a project, which means you have relationship building conversations with your client outside the context of the project. And that creates an opening to discuss other things on their mind.
Right.
That's what I would layer on.
I completely agree. It's so important. All right.
I know there was who asked a question. Go ahead.
Let's get to Tom's question. Right. Okay. So Tom said, I'm wondering about possibly offering my services to companies adverting jobs similar to what I do as a consultant. Okay, so in the same vein as Todd's question before, since few companies are hiring, what might be their appetite for a consulting engagement instead? You can go 1099 and that should make things easier. Okay, so somewhat of a similar question with the advantage that Tom is here and he can clarify the nuances, right? So what do you think?
So I can tell you what our experience has been. And then Marie-Isabel, you weigh in also. We may or may not agree on this. What we have seen is that when a company has made a decision to bring in an employee, they will not bring in a consultant for that role. they might bring in a fractional temporary position, not a fractional, but a temporary, while they're searching for that role. But usually once they've made that decision, they want it in-house, it's very hard to sell them on the idea of, oh, well, you don't actually need the employee. And it goes to all sorts of things in terms of how they're budgeting, their status, there's FTEs and who gets them. There's a million things involved in that. But that's a pretty hard decision to change. That and that's what I've seen in I think we've seen in the past. Marie Isabel, have you seen examples otherwise?
The one maybe situation where I've seen people kind of reverse, and more than reverse, kind of put on hold their decision to hire an employee is if when with expertise, right? With a consultant's expertise, you can demonstrate, look, there's a phase 1 and a phase 2 to the work that it's needed. The skills that an employee will need in phase 1 are completely different than the skills an employee will need in phase 2. And this is true, say, for high growth companies. It's true for companies that have just passed the startup phase, for example, or where they've had, say, a new product deployment, or where have undergone some sort of transformation, where the initial phase requires a level of knowledge or a level of expertise that it's not the same that would be required in subsequent phases. If through your expertise, you can convincingly make an argument for that, then I have seen companies say, okay, fair. We completely understand that. We will put on hold our search for a permanent employee position, which is the permanent role, and we will fill that the initial stage with a higher level of expertise to give it a deeper kind of knowledge of what it's required to succeed in this initial stage. Or we will recruit for the longer term role and enhance it with the expertise of a consultant. Those are the only situations where I've seen a change in the decision.
Yeah. So there you go. There's a couple different points of view or some drill down on it.
All right.
And there were some more questions here.
Right. All right. So we have some comments around this. Mark asked, I have that you say you have both books. That's great. Is there a list of example of methods, touch points for keeping in contact with clients? Yes, of course. I
don't know that it's published though.
Well, then there is, right? So the connect steps of the Irresistible Consultant's Guide to Winning Clients have a series of steps for keeping in contact with clients.
Yes.
And we often talk about our methodology of 111 messages, and we have talked here abundantly about methodology of 111 messages. That's a methodology for keeping in touch with clients. So there's abundantly both in the books and throughout kind of this series and publicly available materials and webinars. We have given plenty of examples, methodologies of how you keep momentum in your outreach and keeping your network warm. David, what else do you want to add to this question? Because I know we can spend hours and we actually
I think that's great. There's a lot published. I think there's some like the client experience checklist and stuff that isn't published. But do a search, Mark, and there is a lot out there.
Right.
And there's more, and as you would expect, there's more behind the paywall, if you will, which would be typical.
Tony asked, do you charge for vision meetings? Let's answer that quickly and then let's wrap up for today. And
generally, no, you don't charge for a vision meeting. It's part of the relationship that you have with an existing client, and you have top to top, and then below it's a collaborative meeting. And no, you don't charge for it. It's an investment in the client relationship. Marie Isabel, do you disagree?
I don't. I completely agree with you. Discovery workshop is something else. So keep the good questions coming.
Yeah,
absolutely. So
I agree.
Please.
And Tom, let us know. You can give it a try and see what happens. Maybe the environment is different now.
It is.
So we'll see. And look at that. With that, we've eaten up 15 minutes of time with you. And thank you for spending the 15 minutes with us. Couple of quick notes. Most of you, we see some of you are new, some of you are not. Make sure you have this in your calendar, Monday Live, davidafields.com Monday Live, so that you come every week, join the regulars and ask these great questions. If you don't receive our articles every week, definitely subscribe. Thank you, Jared. Look at that right there. And finally, if you're not connected to me or you're not connected to Maria Isabel on LinkedIn, then thank you very much, Jared. Jared has posted our LinkedIn IDs. And with that, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a fabulous week. And remember, consulting is about them. It's not about you. It's about them, your clients and your prospects. So give them value and give them kindness. And we will see you next week.
Thank you.